Welcome to day 5 of Facelift Act Local live stream in Daly City. You might want to catch a beverage or get a beverage before we start the program. One of our beverage sponsors is Tioga Sequoia Beer out of Fresno, California. This Half Dome is a wheat beer. Uh-oh. And we have Athletic Brewing Company. They make a non-alcoholic beer that...
Trash grabber did us wrong this evening. Nice. Athletic Brewing, non-alcoholic.
First one I dropped, actually.
Yeah, it's very, very true.
We're very excited that we have cleanups from all over the world now. We've been getting pictures from, Australia, for example. We had a cleanup yesterday in the UK, and we've had a cleanup in Saudi Arabia. And Literati, if you go to that app, to the Act Local app, if you do sign up on that app, please enter Act Local in the code, all in one word. We also had people participate in Literati in India and Myanmar. I especially want to give a big thank you to Robbie Bond and Kids Speak for Parks. They've been extremely helpful.
Yeah, a ton of Kids Speak for Parks photos today. Just so awesome. So thank you, Robbie, and thank you, Kids Speaks for Parks, for getting the word out to a lot of different kids. Appreciate that. We're going to start the evening with a very special contribution from Julia Parker. Julia leads a blessing at our Yosemite Facelift event, and it's one of my favorite parts of the week. Julia's family is native to Yosemite Valley, and it is exceptional to have her and her family's support for this Facelift Act Local event.
And I'm going to be singing a blessing for the facelift in Yosemite Valley for Ken Yeager. Sabarabuyo, sabarabe. Sabarabuyo, sabarabe, one day. Sabarabuyo, sabarabe, sabarabuyo, sabarabe, one day. Sabarabuyo, sabarabe, sabarabuyo, sabarabe, one day. Sabarabuyo, sabarabe, sabarabuyo, sabarabe, one day. Oh, for Yosemite! Oh, with the Awanichi! First people in Yosemite Valley!
Oh, thank you, Julia. It's great to start out the evening with that blessing. If you're just joining us, I will go into Facelift Act Local and what we're doing here. And if you've been with us the last several nights, please bear with me as I explain to our new friends what Facelift Act Local is and how to participate. We have a pledge related to being a good steward on our toolkit. If you go to yosemitefacelift.com/toolkit, you can click a button to take the pledge. And if you want to be eligible for our giveaways, after you've taken the pledge, all you have to do is post a photo of your cleanup with the hashtag FaceliftsActLocal. Tomorrow is day 6, our final day of Facelift Act Local. But this litter pickup challenge does not have to end tomorrow. I was out today cleaning up in Daly City around where we're hosting this live stream event, and there is litter everywhere. So this is something that we can do to help our communities all year round. And I'm really looking forward to seeing people take the spirit of Yosemite Facelift that we brought to Facelift Act Local and carrying that throughout the year in all of the communities that we influence and that we're a part of. We also have an auction that you can see at facelift.givesmart.com. I think Jim is going to pull up a screenshot there of that address. There are still a few items, believe it or not, that don't have any bids. So if you want to go check that out, facelift.givesmart.com. It's a way to donate to the Yosemite Climbing Association, who is the host of Yosemite Facelift and Facelift Act Local, in exchange for something. So you can actually give us money and get something in exchange. So go check out that auction, and thank you to the American Alpine Club for sponsoring that auction site. Wanted to give a big thank you to Ed Whittle and Jim Painter. They're helping us out with AV. If they weren't here, you wouldn't see us, you wouldn't hear us, there would be no live stream. Also to our sponsors, the North Face, who is co-presenting sponsor of Facelift Act Local, and Subaru, co-host and official vehicle of Facelift Act Local. There are, 982 people who have taken the pledge so far, including children and adults. We had wanted to get to 1,000 today, so if you're watching this and you haven't taken the pledge yet, go to yosemitefacelift.com/toolkit and take the pledge. We're going to see if we can get to 1,000 people by the end of this evening live stream program. Finally, we wanted to highlight a partner of ours, TerraCycle. TerraCycle is doing amazing things with recycling, things that we previously couldn't recycle, turning those things into useful items, like benches that we can use in our communities. So let's roll a few hellos from our favorite friends, and Hedras Ramos, our new favorite musician. We'll also have a word from our sponsors and highlight video of how wonderful TerraCycle is for all of their contributions to our communities.
Hey there, this is Celine Cousteau, just wanting to send a message of support for the Yosemite Facelift 2020 campaign, which is Facelift Act Local. Many of us aren't able to travel. Most of us aren't able to travel. So we won't be attending some of these cleanup projects in person, but that shouldn't deter us from doing something in our own backyard, in our own region, nationally, wherever it is that we can. Symbolically, cleaning up is all about understanding that the reason we're cleaning up is there's something in the environment that has been put there by humans. And really, the process is, after the cleanup, is also making those who may not know aware that these cleanups are happening the world over, because all of these different pollutions are happening in our environment. So it's our responsibility to act in prevention, not just in the cleanup process. But in whatever way that you can, wherever you are, please support this campaign. Symbolically and also through your heart, that this is something that we are all connected to, and maybe we can just use this moment to inspire each other and feel like we're acting like a community. So thank you to all those behind the Yosemite Facelift program. Click on the toolkit to find out what you can do. Take the pledge, participate however you can.
Hi, I'm Hazel Finley, and as you can see, this is not Yosemite Valley, but since we can't be in Yosemite this year because of COVID and wildfires and stuff like that, we're just going to do a little clean-up near to where I live with the members of my household.
Hi everyone, my name is Anders and I'm in Vancouver, BC. I've been helping with the Yosemite Facelift since 2007 as Camp 4 host, with graffiti removal and other projects. My project for the virtual facelift will be some cleanup at the Stiwamus Chief in Squamish. I hope you have a fun and safe facelift. Look forward to seeing you in 2021, and remember to vote in November. Thanks.
What kind of value are you looking for with your next new vehicle? With Subaru, you get Kelley Blue Book's 2020 Best Resale Value brand, 2020 Lowest 5-Year Cost to Own brand, and Most Trusted brand for 6 consecutive years. No wonder Kelley Blue Book also picked Subaru as their 2020 Best Overall brand. A trusted brand and a proven value. It's easy to love a Subaru.
Hi, My name is Tom Zaki, and I'm the founder and CEO of TerraCycle. Today, TerraCycle is a global waste management company, operating nationally in 20 countries around the world, from Japan to Brazil to the US and so on, as well as a global nonprofit operating in Thailand and India. Our mission is to eliminate the idea of waste, and we do that by recycling things that were otherwise not recyclable, from dirty diapers to cigarette butts and thousands of other waste streams. We then integrate waste back into products like ocean plastic into shampoo bottles, and then even figure out how to move systems from single-use consumption to reusable consumption, all of this in the spirit to eliminate the idea of waste. But this all started in much more humble beginnings. About 18 years ago, in my freshman year dorm room, I was really loving the idea of entrepreneurship. It was a great vehicle to create change, but was somewhat uninspired that the economics textbooks taught that the purpose of business is only to maximize profit to shareholders. And I really wanted to create a business that I would view as purposeful capitalism, that put purpose first, and then did so at a profit so the company could grow and be sustainable. And I landed on the idea of waste only because, to me, waste is such an immensely big topic. In fact, everything we own will one day be property of a garbage company. And for how ridiculously big that idea is, the level of innovation is extremely small. So to me, this is a huge blue ocean opportunity for massive and purposeful innovation. TerraCycle actually began as a waste management company, turning organic waste into worm poop after feeding it to worms, bottling that in used soda bottles, and then selling that at the world's largest retailers. And since those humble, literally worm poop beginnings almost 20 years ago, we have only grown every year, and today enjoy a global position in the innovation and solution around waste. For how big waste management is, I mean, literally everything one day will belong to a garbage company. It's unbelievable relative to that scale how low the innovation is. I mean, garbage is the least sexy industry out there. I don't know how many people out there even aspire as children to be in the garbage industry, let alone when they go to high school or college. And to me, while that may seem depressing, it's actually a huge opportunity to innovate. Because today, garbage is just about getting rid of a problem, versus really peeling below the surface and understanding how you can create value, not just material value, but other types of value from waste. This is what's unlocked TerraCycle, to be able to recycle what's not recyclable, to integrate waste streams that were never thought about before back into products, and even really reconsider the way we interact with our products, and how do we move into completely zero waste consumption with the world's biggest brands and biggest retailers. One of our missions is to help make recycling, reuse, incredibly fun and exciting, so people want to lean in. So people who may have never wanted to work in the garbage industry now consider a career at a company like TerraCycle. And hopefully we can inspire more entrepreneurship and more innovation in the idea of waste. And we do this in every possible way we can. Every office around the world at TerraCycle is made entirely from garbage. Whether it's remnant carpet for our floors, old doors for our tables, everything embodies this idea. We write books about waste. We really try to demystify what waste is and make it something people want to lean into. Because if you can lean in, that's the beginning of innovation. We also try at TerraCycle to question the norms. Why are we in a garbage problem? Why are more things becoming less recyclable? And how do we fundamentally solve it? And what we found in doing this is that there are some basic misunderstandings. For example, many people think what makes something recyclable is whether it can be recycled, when in fact what makes something recyclable in your community is only if a garbage company in your community can make money recycling that object. These types of thinking allow us to unpack the problems, like how do you recycle diapers at scale, or recycle razor blades at scale, or all these different questions. For me, garbage is just a phenomenal topic because it is everything. Everything one day becomes waste. And so we get to play with everything and question the fundamental assumptions that were behind it. Subaru, its participating retailers and its owners are passionate about keeping waste out of landfills, which made TerraCycle a perfect partner beginning back in 2018. TerraCycle is eliminating the idea of waste by recycling hard-to-recycle waste materials and turning this waste into new products such as picnic tables, park benches, playground equipment, and much more. Subaru and its nearly 600 participating retailers are collecting and recycling empty snack wrappers, disposable cups, lids and straws, coffee and tea creamer capsules, and sending these materials to TerraCycle to be recycled. Subaru and its retailers donate recycled products made from the collected waste to community groups, making the world a better place, such as Nature's Bridge, the largest education partner of the National Park Service in Yosemite National Park. Subaru has provided critical support to more than 100 national parks in an effort to preserve important historical sites that tell the story of our nation, protect threatened species and habitat, and conduct outreach and education programs in local communities. Since starting the Subaru and TerraCycle partnership in 2018, over 30 tons of hard-to-recycle waste materials have been diverted from local landfills. This is equivalent to more than 4.35 million pieces of waste. By partnering in Facelift Act Local, you help your local community and the planet by cleaning up litter during Facelift Act Local. You can take that a step further and sort out snack wrappers, disposable cups, lids, straws, and take it to your local participating Subaru retailer for recycling.
Hey guys, what's up? Hedris here. I just want to say thanks to everybody that is helping with the cleaning and recycling. I think this is a great cause, and I think we should keep supporting this. I believe we should keep our oceans, our rivers and lakes, our forests, our streets very clean, and we should teach this to next generations and just keep supporting this and educating people. So great work out there, and let's keep doing this. Cheers.
When I first learned about Tom Zaki and TerraCycle, it really blew my mind. Um, Never occurred to me that you could take these potato chip bags and granola bar wrappers, any of that crinkly plastic, and that you can recycle it and make furniture. And other things that they do, they take coffee cups and coffee lids, and doesn't matter what kind they are, they bunch them all together and they make furniture out of that as well. And any participating Subaru dealer, you can bring that stuff in. They'll have a bin, one for the crinkly packaging and the other for coffee cups, coffee lids, coffee creamers, that kind of stuff. And they'll send it back and to TerraCycle, and they make lawn furniture out of it. One other thing that I just learned recently within the last year is that they can recycle cigarette butts. And anybody that's ever done a lot of trash cleanup, you probably find that cigarette butts are probably the worst thing that you find and the most prevalent. You find them everywhere. So instead of leaving that stuff on the ground, maybe we can make chairs and benches and furniture out of it and not have to see that stuff all over the place. And anybody that's cleaned up trash too, you know that it's really hard to pick up those cigarette butts.
Especially important to have someone stepping up to recycle these items because, as Tom was explaining, there are fewer and fewer avenues for shipping our plastic recycling overseas to be processed. So great to have a nonprofit like TerraCycle stepping up to do that and partner with the corporations. So we have a wonderful evening program in store for you tonight. We're going to start out with the Four Mothers Project by Lauren Delaunay. I mentioned Lauren's project yesterday. She has been interviewing prevalent female climbers in Yosemite and putting together a book of never before seen photographs from those female climbers. I'm really looking forward to her presentation. That's going to be followed by our giveaways, so stick around. I'm really looking forward to announcing our eligible participants for giveaways this evening. Then we have a tour of the Yosemite Valley Visitor Center permanent climbing exhibit, and that is something that the Yosemite Climbing Association has established in partnership with the Yosemite Conservancy, the American Alpine Club, and the National Park Service. We're really excited about that tour. Currently, the exhibit's closed to the public, so this is a bit of a sneak peek. That will be followed by a visit from a special guest, Supervisory Climbing Ranger Jesse McGahee from Yosemite National Park. We're so excited to have him with us this evening. They'll be doing, Ken and he will be doing a bit of Q&A. And then we have a facelift presentation by Tommy Caldwell, and he has put together video and photos of his climbing in the last several months from his climbing pod. So looking forward to seeing what he's been up to. Thank you, Tommy. He's a member of our board, and we are so appreciative to have his content this evening. If you have been enjoying our content, please click subscribe on our channel. You can also like this presentation individually. Go back, watch some of our previous shows, like those shows if you like. We're looking forward to putting together a final presentation for tomorrow. One note I think I'll just mention now is that PG&E has actually issued a potential power shutdown for the San Francisco Bay Area due to high winds. So
Serious?
We'll be announcing on social media during the day if for some reason we can't actually live stream tomorrow. We have literally decided not to hold the physical event because of a pandemic. We decided to move to the Bay Area because of smoke and wildfire. I don't know what we would do without a generator if the power were to shut down. We're doing everything we can to conclude these evening live streams. But at this point, if that happens, we will just make an announcement on social media tomorrow, and we will post our content pre-recorded through a video that we put together afterward. So thank you everyone for joining us. Please subscribe, and we're so looking forward to this evening's program.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Delaunay, and I am a climbing historian, storyteller, and member of the Yosemite Valley Search and Rescue Team. Thanks so much to Ken for putting this all together. I'm really excited to be here today. And I wanted to use this time to talk about the role of female mentorship in my climbing life and how that led me on an incredible journey to document the history of women's climbing in Yosemite. I also want to pause to acknowledge that Yosemite National Park is the ancestral and present-day home to 7 indigenous tribes and groups. Yosemite was created through their systematic removal, and we climb on their sacred land. The original stewards of this land are the Southern Sierra Miwok Nation, the Bishop Paiute Tribe, the Bridgeport Indian Colony, the Mono Lake Kudsadika, the North Fork Rancheria of Mono Indians, the Picayune Rancheria of the Chukchansi Indians, and the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians. I'm from North Carolina, and despite having a totally indoorsy childhood, I picked up this copy of National Geographic one day while I was sitting in the doctor's office. The cover totally shocked me. What is Yosemite, and what is that man doing up there? I had never hiked, never camped, and never even heard of rock climbing, but something clicked. I knew that I had to see those walls. Fall comes, and I start climbing at the gym at my college. Soon I go on a student trip to Pilot Mountain State Park where this picture is taken. I'm totally hooked on climbing, and I have an awesome girl crew to climb with. I start making weekend trips to the New River Gorge, where I camp for the first time, cook outside for the first time, and even really walk on trails for the first time. More than anything, I'm hooked on the people, the campfires, the camaraderie, and my fun, supportive new girlfriends. But Yosemite seemed so far away. I only knew one person who had ever even been to Yosemite, so I tried to connect with this other world the way I always had, through books. I totally fell in love with the world of climbing literature. I read memoirs, biographies, magazines, anything I could get my hands on. I wanted to be a part of that world so badly, and reading let me do that. Meanwhile, I graduate college and start bouncing around the West. First Alaska, then Utah, Montana, and then I settle for a little while in Estes Park, Colorado. I am totally obsessed with learning how to trad climb so that, eventually, I can learn how to big wall climb. This is me doing the classic jug a fixed line in a tree thing. Once in Estes Park, I move into the infamous guide shack, and on the wall is a poster. It's a few years old, but it's advertising a talk at a local restaurant with local hero Quinn Brett, recently home after breaking the women's speed record on the nose. At this point, I can't even imagine climbing the nose, so I am in awe of Quinn and how strong she is in so many disciplines of climbing. I don't really know her yet, but I admire her nonetheless. At this point, I am super inspired, I'm climbing a lot, and I'm getting my butt kicked all the time. This is a picture of my first time on the diamond after taking a fist-sized rock to the face. And this is a picture of me bailing on my second attempt at the diamond. But despite the ethics, I'm having a ton of fun, I'm learning a lot, and, always in the back of my mind, I'm getting ready for Yosemite. And soon it all starts to come together. 5 years after seeing that magazine, I start climbing some of the smaller walls in Yosemite. I've come to spend a month in the valley, and I'm camping with a crew of people from Estes Park, and with us are none other than Quinn Brett and her climbing partner, Josie McKee. Quinn and Josie are gearing up for one of the most badass climbing feats Yosemite's ever seen. They climb 7 big walls in 7 consecutive days, and one of these is the Lost Arrow Spire. Meanwhile, I'm on my first big wall, and it is taking 4 days and everything I have to get up this wall. And then here they come speeding up past us. This is a picture I took of Quinn as I swung out of the way to let her pass. I am totally dumbfounded by what these women can do, but I just keep churning out smaller walls, putting in my time, and slowly getting to know Josie and Quinn. That spring, Quinn calls me. I figure that she must have the wrong number, but she's looking for a partner to do some climbing in the desert. This picture shows us at the base of a wall in Sedona, and I love how Quinn looks so normal and I look totally terrified. Next we go to Zion, where Quinn's looking at linking up some walls solo. She takes me to the base of the touchstone wall to teach me how to aid solo, and soon she speeds away, and I work up the wall slowly behind her. I've been inspired by women all my climbing life, but this was the first time I had a real mentor. Spring comes, and I head to Yosemite where I link up with my old partner Sarah to finally climb the nose. I just can't believe the trajectory of my life, that somehow I saw a magazine in a doctor's office in Pinehurst, North Carolina, and that now I'm standing on the top of El Cap. All along, I've been surrounded by incredible women. Later that year, I got to join Josie and Quinn on the first all-female one-day ascent of the Triple Direct, where they took the time to teach me new techniques and even let me lead a few pitches. These two are real mentors, willing to slow down their ascent to help me reach my dreams. The next big turning point for me came just a few weeks later, when at a Sunday morning climbers coffee in Camp 4, the two women of Yosemite Valley Search and Rescue approached me about applying for the team. The next year, I found myself a part of this incredible family. And so that pretty much brings us to last year. I've been climbing for around 8 years, and I started to really reflect on all the badass women I'd met who had flown under the radar, especially in Yosemite. I realized that what I had always been looking for were stories that I could relate to. Books like Steph Davis's High Infatuation, which I read over and over again during my travels, made big wall climbing not just a cool thing that someone could do, but a cool thing that I could do. We know that representation matters, but nearly 2/3 of women can't name a single female outdoor role model. I knew that there were books about Yosemite climbing history, but these were entirely male-dominated. I was baffled by the fact that there was no one book that collected the stories of women's experiences climbing in Yosemite. That's the book that I had been looking for all this time, but it didn't exist. So last year, I decided to take things into my own hands. I wanted to see a book that filled in the gaps left behind by Yosemite climbing literature. I wanted to create a stage for my climbing foremothers to finally tell their stories. I pitched my idea to Mountaineers Books, and they quickly signed on to help me make this dream come true. In the spring of 2022, we'll be publishing a collection of over 30 stories from women who have been at the center of Yosemite climbing. So let's do a brief history lesson. Roped climbing came to Yosemite in the 1930s, and by the 1940s, all serious California climbers were testing their mettle in Yosemite. But you couldn't just show up. You needed to register with the National Park Service, and it helped to be part of a club. Groups like the Stanford Alpine Club and the Sierra Club hosted practices at local cliffs, then headed to Yosemite to try big climbs like the Lower Brother, Yosemite Point Buttress, and the Cathedral Spires. The Stanford Alpine Club's history of manless climbing began with its inception in 1946, when Mary Sherrill and Freddie Hubbard became the third and fourth women to stand on top of the higher cathedral spire. Women had curfews at Stanford, but Freddie was known for rappelling out of her dorm window to make it on early morning outings. It seems that the end of World War II and a refocusing of American priorities may have contributed to a decline in women's participation in climbing in the 1950s and early 60s. The few remaining women struggled to find other female partners and were often criticized for only climbing with their boyfriends or husbands. But soon came the change of the 1970s. In 1972, Title IX of the Education Amendments was signed, paving the way for a boom in female athletics. And with 1973's Roe v. Wade decision, women finally had control of their bodies. It shouldn't be surprising then that 1973 also saw Bev Johnson and Sabella Hechtel's first all-female ascent of El Cap via the Triple Direct. From there, women's climbing exploded in Yosemite. One of my favorite stories is that of Ellie Hawkins. Ellie isn't as well known as many of her contemporaries, but she was the first and maybe still the only woman to put up a grade 6 big wall solo, and she has dyslexia. She named the route after her learning difference. In our hours of interviews, she described it as a big adventure with pretty terrible rock. I'm really excited to share the full story in the book once we finish editing it. Another lesser-known story from the 70s that I love is that of Lynn Hill and Mari Gingery's first all-female ascent of the Shield. Lynn and Mari are famous for their free climbing prowess, but climbers at this time didn't differentiate as much between the disciplines. In 1979, the route was one of the hardest aid routes on El Cap, and not many thought they would succeed. But after 6 days on the wall, they pulled off another climb that helped set the stage for women on the big walls. Women were pushing the limits in free climbing as well. As legend has it, Jim Bridwell nicknamed Bev Johnson 5'10 Bev and claimed that if she could do it, it was 5'10, and if she couldn't, it was 5'11. All of that changed when she climbed New Dimensions, the Valley's first 5'11. The 80s come, and with it, another one of my favorite stories. Lydia Brady was a 19-year-old Kiwi when she came to Yosemite, wanting to make the second ascent of Sunkist. But neither Dale Bard nor Jim Bridwell would give her a tobo. She went up anyway. In the 9 months she spent in the valley, she climbed 10 big walls and made 7 first female ascents. The idea of soloing big walls has always intimidated me, and I'd really admire women who embrace this type of climbing. Sylvia Vidal is one of those people who excels in a solo environment. Here she is on a 1997 solo of the Redison Wall on El Cap. When I started climbing, I could look to climbers like Lynn Hill, Steph Davis, and Beth Rodden to see role models that looked like me. As we move forward in diversifying our sport, I hope girls of color can look to athletes like Chelsea Griffey for that same inspiration. In 2001, she became the first Black woman to climb El Cap via Lurking Fear. Chelsea is truly strong in every way. When I started climbing, what really got me hooked was the community, and nowhere have I felt that more strongly than in Yosemite Valley. In 1998, Beth Coates was paralyzed in a climbing accident in Colorado. Less than 2 years later, she climbed the Zodiac on El Cap with friends Steph Davis and Russ Mitrovich. As much as I've always loved to read Steph's tales of free climbing on El Cap and pushing the limits of free soloing, this is perhaps my favorite story. In addition to the historical research I did for this book, I also got to reach out to friends and colleagues that I admire. Throughout this process, I've been reminded that strong women are all around me. Here are some of them. The Four Mothers Project is my quest to connect to the women who came before me, and the book is just one piece of that puzzle. I'm building a women's exhibit for the new Yosemite Climbing Association gallery in Mariposa, and with the help of the American Alpine Club, I'm digitizing dozens of slides from early female ascents in order to preserve these images for future generations. The history of women in Yosemite is the history of climbers in Yosemite, but it hasn't always been seen that way. I know that I'm not the only climber looking for the stories of my foremothers. Women have always been influential in the story of Yosemite climbing, and I hope this project helps demonstrate and preserve this legacy. I hope that with the amplification of these stories, all aspiring climbers will be able to look to the walls of Yosemite and know that they too can be up there.
Right on, Lauren. And
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Delane, and I am a climbing
Four Mothers Project. I am so proud of Lauren's work and also the ability to support Lauren through the Yosemite Climbing Association. Lauren and I have chatted a bit about the book she's working on, and we are really excited to showcase some of the photographs she's unearthed through the project at the Mariposa Climbing Museum and Gallery. Some of those stories, amazing. Love the fact that you identified having female climbing role models. That has been really, really significant to me as well in my climbing evolution. Mentioning Quinn and Josie, 7 big walls in 7 days. I mean, this is just amazing, and I admire them so much, and you for the climbing that you've done. So thank you for presenting for us for Facelift. Mentioning also Roe v. Wade, I think that's very significant right now with the recent passing of Justice Ginsburg. A lot of political challenges ahead possibly for that particular decision. So thanks for mentioning that. Women have certainly recently not had nearly as many rights as they do now. including financial rights, and in the 70s, not being able to purchase property or have credit cards without the support of a male. So that is not all that long ago, and I do think that women need to support each other and continue to fight for the ground that we've gained for equality. So thank you so much, Lauren. I'm really looking forward to supporting the book and having your photos in the museum and gallery. I want to get into something a little bit more light, in that that's our giveaways. So we have 2 beady headlamps that I'm giving away today. Beady headlamps going to, from Red River Gorge, very cool, Shane Pally, Pirate of the Carabiner. Congratulations. I have a BD Creek backpack. This is going to Lainey Machado. Awesome, Lainey. Thank you so much. If we can pull up the photo of the DOS parka from Patagonia. Thank you, Patagonia, for this donation. I'm so excited to announce this goes to Kara Cody in Ventura. We've been playing Kara's hello video with Keith and Evelyn the last few days. So thank you, Kara. Micropuff hoodie. Great. We've got SF Thriller, Dominique, cleaning up in Montera. I actually know Montera pretty well, living on the coast in California. Thank you so much for your cleanup. And I'll do my own drum roll. Today we have grand giveaway, a unisex Subaru branded single speed bike, and you can choose between a black and white frame, going to Gracie NMT, cleaning up in Mariposa. So thank you everybody who's participating. You guys are awesome. And we are going to be moving into our tour of the Yosemite Valley Visitor Center exhibit. Looking forward to getting a sneak peek of that exhibit.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We're in front of the Visitor Center here in the Yosemite Village. My name is Jenna Wood. I'm a climbing ranger, and I've got with me today Ken Yeager, president and founder of the Yosemite Climbing Association, and Jesse McGahee, the lead climbing ranger. And we're here to give you a virtual tour of the brand new climbing exhibit in the Visitor Center.
The climbing exhibit is completed, but unfortunately, due to COVID-19 and the current pandemic, the visitor center is closed. So we're asking you to join us for a virtual tour.
For portions of this tour, you're going to see us remove our mask. Just know that we're taking COVID-19 very seriously, and we will be maintaining 6 feet of social distancing.
All right, well, let's go take a look inside.
Hello, my name is Ephraim Dixon, branch chief for the Museum and Media Branch here at Yosemite National Park. And we're standing now inside the brand new climbing exhibit. We're extremely proud and excited, but not only for the quality of the exhibit you see around you, but also for the process that we involved in the design. This involved bringing in all of our stakeholders from the community, subject matter experts. It was a process by which we ensured that each of the images and all the artifacts were the right ones to tell the story. We want you to understand that this is just the beginning of many more exhibits to come in the future, and we appreciate your financial support. Thank you.
All right, we're at the start of the exhibit, which opens up with a large photo of maybe the most famous rock in the world, El Capitan. And we also have some photos of some of the influential climbers on El Capitan. Ken, do you want to tell us a little bit more about it?
I'd be glad to. El Capitan was first climbed in 1958 via the nose route over a 1.5 year period in 47 days. They finally topped out on November 12, 1958. Warren Harding, Wayne Mary, and George Whitmore made it to the top. And I have a little story about Warren Harding, who's right here. And Warren, actually, Jenna, was the very first hitchhiker I ever picked up the day after my 16th birthday. I just got done climbing at Lover's Leap, and I picked this guy up, and he looked like a hobo, but he introduced himself, and I knew who he was, and of course shook his hand. I was in heaven, and we became friends and eventually climbing partners.
Thanks for sharing that story, Ken.
You're welcome, Jenna.
All right, so now we're going to have Jesse come, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these influential climbers that made the list. So we heard about Warren Harding. Some other people that made the list were Royal Robbins, who first climbed the northwest face of Half Dome and put up the second route on El Capitan via the Salathé Wall. And then we've got my two favorites, Charlie Porter and Bev Johnson. Also, Jim Bridwell, Lynn Hill, Tommy Caldwell, and the most famous climber in the world, Alex Honnold. But with only 8 people, who is someone that you wish would have made the list?
It's a great question. It's hard to pinpoint just one person. There's probably 10 different people that could have easily made this list. There's so many influential climbers on El Capitan. But I think back to the first time I came to Yosemite Valley in 2000. I was a young climber, starry-eyed because of both features like El Capitan, but also because of all the professional level climbers that were in the scene at that time, like Dean Potter and Yuji Hirayama from Japan. But the two climbers that really stand out for me are the Huber brothers, Thomas and Alex from Germany. And I remember seeing them in Camp 4, Alex wearing nothing but leather black pants and strutting around without a shirt on. They were definitely stars of the scene back then. We could spend all day talking about influential climbers in El Capitan, but Yosemite is full of other climbs and other features and other climbers that have been influential. So let's move on to the next part of the exhibit, which is the evolution of climbing, and talk a little bit about the various methods that people use to rock climb.
And there's a lot of different types of climbing, so Jesse, can you kind of go into more detail?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually a great shot to show free climbing. So Lonnie here, who is actually a descendant from one of the early inhabiting tribes here in Yosemite Valley, the Awanichi Miwok tribe. He is free climbing right now, and you can see his hands and his feet are on the rock, and he has this rope right here that is clipped through a couple different pieces of equipment. So if he falls, this rope will secure his fall and hopefully catch his fall. So this is called free climbing. If he was free soloing, you take away his harness, you take away his rope, and all you would leave are his shoes and his chalk bag, and you wouldn't have any protection. And that's what Alex Honnold did on El Capitan. Everybody who has seen that movie, Free Solo, he is free soloing. We talk about the first free ascents as opposed to an aid climbing ascent. And here in the exhibit we describe all the different types of climbing. But aid climbing is essentially you are using the equipment that you're placing, like this piece of equipment here, for example, and you would clip a ladder to it, ascend the ladder as high as you could, and place another piece of equipment. You still have a rope, you still might fall, so you still have that security, and it becomes redundant. So each piece you place, if one of them fails, the one below it will secure you. But yeah, that's basically been the general evolution of climbing is towards more free climbing, and not necessarily free soloing, but more free climbing.
All right, thanks Jesse for talking us through the different types of climbing. Now we're going to take a deeper look into the tools and equipment that has been used, and Ken can tell you a lot better than I can about how equipment has changed over the years.
I'm going to talk about some of the hardware that's been used on Yosemite's walls. The very first climb was actually the first ascent of the cable route on Half Dome done by George Anderson in 1875, and he got up that side of the face by drilling holes in the rock, putting in a little eye bolt, tying himself to the eye bolt, standing on it, and then drilling another hole and putting another bolt in. Many of you have done the cables route on Half Dome. That's Yosemite's first real rock climb. Then it wasn't until the 1930s, 1933 to be exact, when the RCS, or the rock climbing section of the Sierra Club, came up to Yosemite and actually introduced the modern rope and climbing techniques that came over from Europe. And for hardware, they used these 10-inch nails. The very first climb they did was over on Washington's Column. They got halfway up and they climbed Lunch Ledge. And they, empowered by that success, the very next day they went and tried to climb Higher Cathedral Spire. Higher Cathedral Spire and Lower Cathedral Spire were the two big peaks that were still unclimbed at that time. Anyway, this is Warren Harding's hammer. The handle broke when they were climbing the nose, and they searched around the base and they found the head, and you can see the dent in it from falling. And they used some local oak wood to make a new handle and eventually completed the climb. Then in the 1960s, we went over, we started using hammerless gear in 1966. The very first nuts were brought in from Great Britain, and Royal Robinson, one that brought them back and tried them out and used them on the first ascent of a very popular climb called the Nutcracker. And the beauty of these things that you didn't use a hammer, and so it didn't damage the rock. And so, and it's called clean climbing. Clean climbing is encouraged anywhere in all climbing areas. We only use a piton when it's absolutely necessary anymore. And then in the late 70s, 78, Ray Jardine came up with what's called the modern cam. He called it the Friend. And they have moving parts. And Yosemite has very parallel cracks. Now, all the other gear that we had to go in these restrictions in the rock or they wouldn't hold. A lot of Yosemite's cracks are so parallel, it's like two buildings next to each other. And so the cams made it so that we can protect those parallel cracks safely. This particular boot has hobnails on the bottom. It's a mixed boot for alpine climbing, for ice, snow, glaciers, and rock. And they use these mostly up in the high country, like on Unicorn Peak and those kind of peaks up in Tuolumne Meadows. Nowadays we have sticky rubber shoes, and they have no pattern on the bottom. In other words, they're smooth soled.
All right, and another part of the climbing history here is the involvement with search and rescue. Climbers have been involved with search and rescue from the beginning because if you have to rescue a climber, then you need climbers to help rescue them. And so that's actually how I got my start before becoming a climbing ranger. I was on the STAR site, which is search and rescue site, which is where they get climbers mostly to help out with rescues. But we're working closely with rangers like Jesse.
As Jenna was saying, a lot of climbers really would love to be on the STAR site. They get to live in Camp 4, like these ladies, Alexa and Jane here, and you get to participate and get paid in some of the most exciting rescues that happen in Yosemite. And it just happens that a lot of people that are on the STAR site become rangers, and actually both of these guys, Aaron and Jack, were once on the STAR site. So an interesting development over the years in climbing in Yosemite is that a lot of climbers realize, hey, I can work for the National Park Service, protect this place, become a steward, help rescue climbers, and get to live here. And that blend of climbers and rangers brings the two communities a lot closer together.
All right, so now we're going to take a look at what it's like to live on the wall. And that's what climbers are doing when they're up on El Capitan. They're bringing everything they need to live up there. So what does that mean? Well, one thing, you have to sleep. So we've got a portaledge right here. And the portaledge is essentially a hanging cot. And so that's where climbers are sleeping when there's not natural rock ledges to sleep on. They also have to bring all of their food and water, and they're bringing that up in a haul bag. You might be able to see that hanging down below the portaledge. So the haul bag is brought up, and the haul bag could weigh 100, 200 pounds. And so that's another challenge of life on the wall. You can see everything's clipped in, because if it's not clipped in, you might lose it. So you're going to need all these things as you go up. And this is one of my favorite parts about climbing in Yosemite, is the experience of getting to live kind of a simpler life for a couple days. You have to be tied in at all times, so it's not always easy, but it is more simple. And that's one of the beautiful parts about climbing in the vertical wilderness. So one of my favorite things about this exhibit is the interactive piece, and this shows kind of what climbing in Yosemite is all about, which is crack climbing. And so you can see all these cracks in the rock, and also you have a chance to take this equipment. This one's called a hex, and we have them in different sizes, and you can kind of figure out how it works, slot it in, and you get a better idea of how climbing equipment works in Yosemite, and also how climbers are climbing these cracks. It's problem solving and figuring out kind of what part of your hand fits best. For example, it might be a finger crack, so you might slot your fingers in, or it might even be your whole fist, so a fist crack. And that's how climbers are moving up, is they're using their hands and their equipment and figuring out what fits and what works best to make their way up these rock faces. So this will be a fun thing to check out once the exhibit is open. We're going to just wrap things up with a quick kind of conversation about how this exhibit started with Ken and Jesse.
1992, climbers weren't very well liked here, not only by the Park Service and prior to that too, but also by the concessionaire. And so I kind of realized that early on that we'd have to improve that relationship. And so I went to a lot of effort to kind of show that the climbers aren't all that bad. In particular, we organized the Yosemite Facelift, which really helped break down that animosity between the two groups. And it's gotten better and better ever since, and this climbing exhibit exemplifies that, because we all worked together to put this together, and it was an awesome experience.
When I think of what the relationship between the Park Service and the climbing community, what the positive relationship has become, it's exemplified by the facelift, and what YCA and yourself and we have done together to bring those communities together for positive good, for stewardship, for entertainment. The community gathering and during the facelift is pretty amazing. And this exhibit, I definitely want to honor the people that have put a lot of effort in, and I know, Ken, this has been your brainchild and your vision, but we also want to make sure to talk about some of the other people that have really helped make this exhibit possible. And the American Alpine Club, especially with a generous donation from Jerry and Sandy Galawaz, Yvonne Chenard, in honor of Jim McCarthy, Yosemite Climbing Association, and the Yosemite Conservancy have all pooled resources together to make this happen. And we are totally honored to have this exhibit as a part of the Visitor Center now. And another couple things I wanted to leave you with is we want this to be an inspiration for your own adventure. And here you can see all the adventures and the problem solving and the wilderness experience that climbers have had. But as you leave here, make sure to walk out, take a look up at the walls. It's all wilderness. It's all ready there to have your adventure at the level that you want to have. And thank you for your time today, and look forward to having you come here in person to see the exhibit.
After spending the last 28 years of my life working on this project, it was really nice to collaborate with the American Alpine Club, the Yosemite Conservancy, and the National Park Service. We all collaborated and built this exhibit, and never in my wildest dreams did I think it would happen during my lifetime, and I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you. Things have changed. Anybody that's ever climbed in the 70s, they may remember trying to steal a shower, getting chased with their clothes in their hands, running naked into the rocks to get away. I believe Jim Bridwell got beaten with a billy club one time by security. We all had our difficulties back then, and that's one of the things that really bothered me up here. I loved Yosemite, I loved the people there, but there was this toxic relationship between the Park Service and the climbing community. That has changed now, and I'm proud to say that, because of that change, we are able to do this climbing exhibit in the park, and there's a lot of other things that Yosemite Climbing Association works with the Park Service on, and to make our community a little better. I'm very excited tonight to have Jesse McGahee. here, and Jesse is the lead climbing ranger for the National Park Service. And I'd like to welcome Jesse. And
Thanks.
Jesse, maybe you can just tell us what you do for the Park Service and what your job entails.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, so what I do is I'm the supervisory or lead climbing ranger for Yosemite, and that we have 4 climbing rangers who work for me. I'm really proud of all of them. Brandon Adams, Casey Ellingford, Jenna Wood, and Eric Lynch. And we have a group of interns that we call climber stewards. And we have several different programs, and a lot of those programs have developed over time, basically because of collaborations that we've had with Yosemite Climbing Association and the Yosemite Conservancy. And I still remember when I first started as a climbing ranger in 2006, Lincoln Else was the previous climbing ranger, and he told me like midway through the season, he's like, hey, the Yosemite Facelift is one of the most important things you'll do during your whole season. So you need to start working on it with Ken and YCA in June. And I was like, June? And nowadays Ken works on it. He'll start working on next year's tomorrow, right?
Day after tomorrow.
Day after tomorrow, he'll start working on it next year. So I remember our first meeting, sitting down in the picnic tables outside the SAR office and discussing all the different things we were going to do. And I just got so excited, and I can't imagine like how much, that was the 3rd annual facelift that year, and how much we've done to clean up the park, to build trails, to restore areas that were impacted by previous years and generations. And now the Yosemite climbing exhibit, we have an Ask a Climber program that Ken helped to start, that we have 2 climbing rangers that are fully funded by that project, and that gets people out from all over the world, up to 800 people a day, to see climbers doing big walls on El Capitan. So I can't say enough about our partnership and what we've been able to leverage and amplify through that community, and also about the individuals that are involved in the program. And we'll see Casey's Climber Steward video tomorrow. We're always looking for more people to be involved, and it's a year-round project. So that's what we do.
So you guys actually get to patrol out on the rock. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that everywhere throughout the park? Do you do it on El Cap, for example, or?
Absolutely, yeah. We do. We conduct climbing patrols on El Cap, up in the high country, like Cathedral Peak, Kness, and even in the backcountry at some of the more isolated peaks like Tower Peak. And we're pretty much doing what wilderness rangers do everywhere across the country, except we specialize in the vertical terrain.
Are there any other parks that have climbing management programs?
Yeah, absolutely. Everywhere from Denali, Mount Rainier, Grand Teton has maybe one of the more historic climbing ranger programs, and we're all jealous of what they have going on at Jenny Lake. And Rocky Mountain National Park has a pretty developed climbing ranger program, and some of the other parks have some less developed climbing ranger programs. But to tell you the truth, we didn't really have a climbing ranger program for decades, and it kind of got revamped right around the time the facelift started kicking in. And Ken talks about that toxic relationship that we had. And the first year I took the job, I remember some climbers being like, basically wanting to, it wasn't in the Facebook age then, but they're like, we're befriended. You're working for the other side now. We're no longer a part of the same team. And I was so taken aback. I'm like, come on, like we all have the same goals in mind, right?
There's no doubt we do. And I've seen a big change in. Have you?
Oh, no? Absolutely. It's over 15 years, we have so many rangers now that are climbers first, and then they got a career in climbing, and vice versa. So many climbers have so much respect for the climbing rangers, and we've even seen some overlap in climbing rangers becoming professional climbers, and and professional climbers wanting to become climbing rangers, and it's pretty seamless. I feel like everybody understands that what we're trying to do is work for a sustainable park, have low impact on the resources, and give back to the community when we can, like with the Yosemite Facelift.
That's great, Jesse. If somebody wanted to learn more about the climbing management program, where can they go to find out more information?
That's a good question. We have Yosemite Climbing Association helps to sponsor our Climbing Ranger website, and that's climbingyosemite.com. So yeah, that's climbingyosemite.com. We post up trip reports and condition reports, all kinds of information such as what we're doing right now to respond to COVID-19 and how we're retaining access for climbers to do big wall climbs. And right now we're just heading into the wall climbing season, and climbers still don't need to get a wilderness permit for climbing, but right now we do have a restriction for parking in Yosemite. So in order to climb overnight in Yosemite on El Cap or Half Dome or other walls, you can look on the website there and find out information on how you can get a free parking permit once you have access to the park.
That's great, Jesse. I want to thank you for coming down here and sitting in with us and talking about the climbing management program.
Well, really appreciate it, Ken. And if I can bring up 2 more points. One, there's the off chance that my 3-year-old son Everett and my 6-year-old daughter is watching tonight, so I want to give a shout out to them and thank them for helping me clean at Wilder Ranch today and in Santa Cruz area. We're taking a weekend down here to get away from the smoke and everything, and 3-year-olds and 6-year-olds are out there cleaning up everything as well, and we can learn a lot from them, and what we're doing right now will transcend to the next generation. So yeah.
If the kids can do it, we can do it too, right? They're our future
Absolutely.
leaders. We got a nice video coming up from Tommy Caldwell. I should mention, I know Alice mentioned it earlier, Tommy Caldwell, he's actually one of the YCA board members. A lot of people may not realize we're a nonprofit. And Tommy put together a video of climbing during COVID with his pod of climbers, and we're going to watch that next.
Hey everyone, Tommy Caldwell here. Such an honor to once again do a presentation at the Facelift. Definitely a bummer we're not there in person this year. This is one of my favorite events of the year. I've probably been to the Facelift 10 times, presented probably 5 times. I'm not sure how long it's been going on, but yeah, getting together with everybody, partying, feeling the energy of Yosemite Valley and making the place pristine. That's what this place has meant for me for so many years. Obviously, we have to rethink life this year. Everything's a little bit different, and so I'm bringing it home like so many other people. I'm going to get out with my kids tomorrow and clean up my local crag, my local climbing areas, the places here at home. And so, yeah, hopefully a lot of you are doing the same. So in that spirit, I thought I would do my presentation this year on local adventures. I've been really enjoying my backyard crag of Rocky Mountain National Park a lot. At the beginning of the COVID shutdown, I actually started running instead of climbing. In my mind, I was wondering if the hospitals were going to start filling up and if doing anything that could potentially put me in a hospital would be irresponsible and make it so that people, with COVID couldn't actually get treated. So I decided it would be a little bit safer for me to go out and start running. And I've always kind of been addicted to moving fast in the mountains, but I've never really taken a runner's mentality. So I started running up the mountains here in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I pretty quickly realized that when you have that runner's mentality, you can move really fast. I mean, I've been into climbing fast. I've been into speed climbing. Me and Alex Honnold have the speed record on the nose, but getting to the base of the mountains or the top of the mountains with this running mentality, just happened way faster than I ever thought. For instance, my home 14,000 foot peak, Long's Peak, had always been like, at least 2/3 of a day or a full day to get to the top and back down. But when I went up there with a runner's mentality, I was able to get up and down the mountain in like 3 hours. And so I started to wonder if I could combine climbing on one hand and running on the other hand and speed climbing, how many of the mountains I could actually link together in one go. So I had decided to pod with a handful of friends, good climbing buddies, Austin Syadak and Adam Stack, and once or twice a week I'd go on these adventures with them, these kind of running slash scrambling adventures. And they, as we did more and more of them, they kind of got more towards, easy scrambling and less towards climbing. So this is Adam Stack right here, and I really need to credit him with coming up with the idea that would really become my big summertime climbing objective. He kind of started to map out a line to link every climbable or major climbing formation in Rocky Mountain National Park. He figured out it would be like, something like 35 miles of travel, 20,000 feet of elevation gain. I think it ended up being like 13 mountains, 11 different routes, 75 pitches. It was kind of this monster climbing objective. It kind of takes a masochist to come up with something like that. Adam and I have a really long history together. He's probably my longest standing climbing partner at this point. My dad actually got him into climbing in middle school, and he then, started climbing really well pretty quickly. I think he climbed 9A when he was like 18 years old, and then decided to come to Yosemite and make a go at big wall free climbing. This is actually a picture of Adam when he was like 18 or 19 years old. He lived in Yosemite in his truck for several seasons. He, like I said, he had climbed at 9A. He had done really good in sport climbing, but he really wasn't much of a trad climber. But he figured it out pretty quick. He teamed up with Justin Shong. They freed the Salathé. He was really the impetus behind believing that Magic Mushroom could be a free climb. He spent about 2 seasons sort of pioneering the path that would ultimately become that route, and he really has been kind of a visionary in a lot of ways. On a side note, he's also, at least for a short time longer, probably climbing's most eligible bachelor. Maybe I'll get into that story a bit more later. Anyway, so what Adam and I ended up doing is going out and sort of practicing the sections of what would ultimately become the Continental Divide Ultimate Link Up, the Cuddle. We would go out and we'd climb like, 3 or 4 mountains at a time, and it was really made for a wonderful summer because once a week I was getting out with Adam. We were climbing to the tops of 3 or 4 of the most beautiful mountains in Estes Park, and it really made me love my backyard. And in this weird COVID world where it seems like everything's falling apart around you, the fact that I could go out and have this great adventure right in my backyard once a week really kept my morale super high. I think after the summer I understand the importance of our public lands and our close to home public lands so much more. I always went to Yosemite for my big adventures, but I realized that if you can't go to Yosemite, you really can have just great adventures close to home if you get creative. Spent about a month climbing all these different mountains with Adam, and it was really, really incredible time. But ultimately, Adam decided that the life experience that would ultimately become the Cuddle Link Up might be a bit too much for him. So I started to contemplate other potential partners. There's not that many people that have the right combination of climbing skill, love of adventure, and kind of masochistic need to push themselves for potentially days on end to climb some arbitrary link up. The one person that I had done this kind of stuff quite a bit with is, obviously this guy right here, Alex Honnold. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of pretty crazy adventures with Alex. Obviously, this picture is of us on the Fitz Traverse, which we did in 2014, I think it was, and it was kind of this crazy adventure. It took us 5 days of traveling through the mountains. It was probably the one time I've ever teamed up with Alex where at the end of the entire adventure I might have been slightly less haggard than he was. I mean, I always feel like I'm drafting after this guy, but for whatever reason on this trip, maybe it was that I had a little bit more big mountain experience. I actually, looked at him at the end and I was like, man, I'm slightly better off than you are right now. And, but I mean, he's come so far since then, and he's, everybody knows that Alex has got this, this mental game that's unlike anybody else's. I think he's a good climber. I don't think his actually technical climbing skill is his biggest strength though, but I think what I've started to learn is his biggest strength is his ability to just go and go and go for days on end. And this summer climbing objective really reinforced that idea. So I called him up and told him about the idea. Pretty much everything in his life had been canceled, as is, pretty much the same for everybody else. And so he was game. He thought he'd come out and give it a try. So he showed up in Estes. We went and we practiced all the peaks in less than 2 weeks. We would go out every other day, more or less, and hike 20 miles and climb 4 or 5 mountains. It's amazing how all of the climbing objectives, all the different mountains shrink to half the size climbing with Alex, but it was so efficient. And so within a couple of weeks, we were kind of ready to try the big link up. We didn't really know how long the entire link up would take, so we decided to have some resupplies, have some friends come and meet us up in the mountains. Adam Stack, he was part of our support. Mari Birdwell, they would meet us along the way, resupply us with food, and yeah, that way we could kind of just keep on going and going for as long as we possibly could. We started out, kind of at 4 o'clock in the morning, and for the first most of the day, things went pretty well. It was actually pretty lovely climbing. We're climbing fast, we're feeling good, and we're excited about the experience until the night came and things started to go downhill. We missed one of our drop-off points, or we missed meeting up with our supply crew, so we didn't have food for 5 hours. We didn't have headlamps, we didn't have warm clothes for half the night. We were just kind of trying to climb along with our iPhones jammed under our hats as lights without any food, and the whole thing got a lot more real. I think probably the best way to show you about the adventure is just to show you a few videos. So I think I got 3 or 4 videos that I can just show you that lays out the sort of the bulk of the adventure that we had.
There's Tommy getting close to the base of the central ramp on Alice. Whew. We just scrambled up along section of 4th class. We can hear water raging, which is perfect because we're about to drink a lot. Yeah, it sounds like a river over there. It's Tommy scrambling like a total boss. We're about to scramble the whole way up Alice in our approach shoes with the chalk bag. We shall see. Here's a view from the summit of Arrowhead. You got Meeker and Longs behind us, and the pagoda and Chief's Head. I don't know what we're looking at. Hard to see on the screen. So there's Tommy way down there on the ridge, you might be able to see them. And then the long ridge going up to McHenry's. We're about to do that in the dark. Hopefully, by putting a phone into my hat as a little flashlight thing, because we have no headlamps, because we got hosed. Oh, it's pretty chilly. We also don't have any pants, which is really sad. It's gonna be a long, cold night up here, I think, but maybe put on my raincoat in a minute. Hopefully, the 1,500 feet of vert up that ridge keeps us warm. Oh boy.
So you look like a hero. How do you feel?
I feel very bad. Very, very bad.
This is it's been just like 25 hours, something like that.
Yeah, 24.
24 right here.
24:15.
2 mountains left.
Sun's rising. We just have to rappel the backside, go up that notch, go to the rim, go around pallets, which looks so far away.
Look at the ooh, look at the sunrise. Yeah.
It'll be warm again.
Oh, glory.
Alright, let's wrap out of here.
Glory. Wow. That was rugged. Night to remember.
Well, you wanted some of the character building.
Yep. So we ended up finishing our climb after 36 hours of continuous movement. It was pretty rugged, great masochistic adventure. Really the key to making it work in the end was the fact that Adam Stack came and rescued us in the middle of the night with headlamps and food. Definitely our hero. And as a reward, and just sort of a thank you to Adam, Alex ended up posting a Adam Stack dating post on Instagram to his 2 million followers, talking about what a badass, handsome, sort of loving man that he is. And Adam ended up getting like 1,000 direct messages from people. I think it maybe has something to do with COVID-19. People are feeling a little lonely, understandably. And so if Alex Honnold posts a dating post, people are gonna get after it. And Adam has been on an incredible dating adventure ever since. I'm going to change modes for the last little bit of my presentation here. I think the one thing that this kind of crazy COVID world has really reinforced in my life is that, as climbers, we learn to take adversity, which we're kind of going through globally together, and harness it. We figure out ways to rise above. It helps us to sort of reevaluate the things that we have, appreciate the things that are close to us. And so I've been definitely holding my family a lot tighter. I've been getting out in the mountains and really appreciating them in a way that I haven't probably for several years. I feel lucky to be alive, lucky to have these places, and it increases my want to try and to protect them. And I firmly believe that climate change is real, and it's something that has the potential to make my kids' lives a lot harder than my life has been. And so I've sort of vowed to do everything I can to help that situation. For several years, I've been trying to become a better environmental advocate, and one thing that I've realized is that we can all make those individual changes and consume less. But at the end of the day, that's not going to be enough. The only way that we can have a chance of fixing this problem in time is to change policy. And to do that, we need to elect leaders that have strong environmental stances. And so, that's how I want to end this presentation today. To encourage you all to get out and vote. That's the most important thing you can do. It's also kind of the low-hanging fruit. It's not that hard to make it happen. This year it's a little harder than normal. You need to make a firm plan. You need to study sort of the regulations and the potential barriers in your state and make it happen. I'm gonna leave you off here with a fun little video that we put together with Patagonia. So much of life is heavy right now, so I think bringing levity into the world is really important. So I hope you enjoy this little video. Yo, Z, what's up?
Yo, T-Nugs!
Pretty high gravity day today.
Oh, gnarly, dude.
Yeah, bro, it's a choss pile out here.
Yeah, you know what's fully whack? Big oil and these wildfires.
Yeah, not to mention the pandemic and police brutality.
Yeah, and the bubonic plague.
Dude, Jinx, you owe me a ball nut.
Yeah, well, at least I got this new project I'm working on.
Sick, dude. What is it?
I'm working on my voting plan, dude.
Dude, voting is so sandbagged right now.
Yeah, it's heady.
So, what's your beta?
Mail-in ballot.
Dude, send it.
Pack my bags and go into Sensville.
I'm gonna double dino on the micro crimper.
Huh?
I'm gonna chicken wing to Bomb Town.
What?
I'm gonna carp to Blimp Town.
Those are not even real words.
I'm gonna wake up early and vote.
Oh, trad style tight.
All right, so there you have it. Text vote to 71333. Get out there, do your facelift at home, clean up your local crag, your local area, spread the love. Hang in there, everyone. I sincerely hope we'll be back in Yosemite together to do the actual facelift next year. I think we will. And yeah, signing off. Have a good one.
Thank you, Tommy. I'd like to be a member of your COVID climbing pod. Wish I was. I'd like to talk about taking the pledge. We're 9 people short of 1,000. And to take the pledge, all you have to do is go to the YosemiteFacelift.com website. And in our Toolkit 2020, we have the pledge and other pertinent information. And it's real easy. You fill out that form. And if you have one, you grab one of these, okay, and a bag, and you go out, pick up a bunch of trash in your local area, whatever area that you feel needs a little help or a little love. And we want you to recycle what you can. Those wrappers, coffee cups, coffee cup lids, they can all be brought to participating Subaru dealers. And all you have to do is hashtag a photo with hashtag facelift act local. You send that in and it makes you eligible for our giveaways. We have one more giveaway tomorrow, so get your friends to sign up. Put us over 1,000, please.
Yeah, you heard Ken. 9 more people, then we'll be at 1,000. We also have on Monday, we're going to do some photos from our Gmail account as well. So we've got 2 more giveaways. So anybody who doesn't have social media, you can send a photo to YosemiteFacelift@gmail.com. And you all heard Tommy, right? Make a plan, send it, vote. It's a simple thing to do. Are you going to vote, Ken?
I'm going to vote.
I'm going to vote. Tomorrow evening, we've got 3 videos, film presentations that we're hoping to show for you if we don't have our power shut down because of a high wind advisory. We will be posting on social media if that actually happens. We'll get that up as soon as possible, as soon as we know. Our first film tomorrow is a presentation by Casey Ellingford on the Climber Stewards 2020. The Climber Stewards are climbing ranger interns, so it's the climbing ranger internship in Yosemite National Park. Looking forward to that. Thank you for putting that together, Casey. Second, we'll be showing Jenny Abeg's Speak to Me Softly, which has been out for a little while and goes through what it's like to climb with anxiety and what that inner monologue is like. Looking forward to sharing that with you. And then finally, we have, I hope, a presentation from Cedar Wright. So Cedar, if you're watching this or anyone who knows you is watching this, let Cedar know. Yeah, we have a presentation from Cedar tomorrow.
And Cedar knows how it works. Be here or be slandered. So
yep.
We're expecting a presentation tomorrow.
And to take us home, to take us out of here this evening, we have another song by War Girl. So let's play that song now. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.